Good morning and welcome to the REPXPERT Conference Garage Forum. We've assembled a panel of industry experts to delve into the pressing issues facing your garage businesses. From electric vehicles to apprenticeships and anything else that we can squeeze into before those all-important REPXPERT Awards, we're going to dive deep and ask the all-important questions to those in the know. Starting from your left, I'd very much like to welcome on REPXPERT Brand Ambassador Andy Savva, the Garage Inspector. With more than 35 years of experience under his belt, Andy has owned and managed his share of highly successful garages. He's renowned for his garage business training and consulting, from which I'm sure many of you here today will have benefited from. We then have Dean, whose passion and drive for fixing things, along with a strong determination to succeed, has seen what started as a mobile business develop into a highly respected workshop in Cheshire. His success, as he'll no doubt explain shortly, is thanks to his apprentices whom he continues to mentor and nurture today. We have Matt Cleevely of Cleevely Group, living proof that there's opportunities to be had when it comes to electric vehicles. He made the decision to embrace EV 6 years ago, blissfully unaware of the hard work that lay ahead of him. Undeterred by the challenges, he transformed obstacles into stepping stones for innovation and growth. And Matt will be sharing his expertise as an award-winning garage, widely renowned independent EV specialist. We're also pleased to have Tim Benson of Oldfields Garage in Herefordshire. Starting his working life as a parts at a main dealer, he explored his career options and picked up a business degree before the lure of business development at his own family-owned garage pulled him back in. We'll be tapping into his wealth of knowledge and deep understanding of the industry. And last but by no means least, we've got Matt Wiseman of West Midlands-based Wiseman Motor Services. Having spent his formative years fixing tractors for his now landlord, he went on to work at a local garage before realising that he should be working for himself. Matt started with just a few spanners and a trolley jack, teaching himself while on the job. His secret? Always provide a good service to ensure your customers keep coming back. And before we get stuck in, I should also introduce myself. I'm Mike Ruff of Autotech Comms. I've been reporting on the industry for the last 10 years, and today I'll be doing my best to moderate this discussion and keep everyone in line. As we work through it, you, our audience, are encouraged to get involved. I've got a couple of mics running around, so if you have a question relevant to the topic being discussed, please do raise a hand and we'll run one of those microphones over to you. Feel free to direct it to anyone within our panel, or if it's just an open question, let us know. If you've got a question that we're not covering at the moment and the time down here, just let us know. Don't worry, we've got an open Q&A session at the end, so all questions welcome at the end. But let's get started with Andy. Perhaps you could start on a positive note, because I know that you believe there's never been a better time to own an independent garage. Tell us why you think that is.
I'm going to go back a little bit, because in 2010, when I opened my last business, I thought that was never a better time to open a business. But I think roll on where we are now, and I think if I had the opportunity to open a garage, I'd open one tomorrow. It's the best time I've ever known their industry in terms of work. I think COVID had an acceleration in that. So the hardship that we went through during COVID has actually proved a positive for us, because people have realised the convenience and the independence of having your own travel. I've never known us to be so busy, and the only thing that's holding us back and holding a lot of folk here are people, which we're going to touch on, and Colin very nicely commented on the issues that we have, and also space. We don't have space. We can't just buy land all of a sudden and bolt it onto our workshops, so we have to think about how differently we can run our workshops with efficient processes and that. But I've never known lead times on average now to be 2 or 3 weeks. I've never known garage owners that I deal with that are actually not taking any more work on for new people because they've got enough of the existing database, which puts us in a nice position really in a position to be able to charge the right fees, which we'll cover later, and also to say no to some work that we may have previously accepted. So the value of our proposition should be stronger, but my God, what a time to be in the independent garage sector. And just to stop on one other point, I believe that out of all the repairers out there, and there's three main ones, which is us, the independent sector, my garage folk, as I call them. You've got the retailers with the glossy chandeliers and the shiny stairs. And then you've got the national fast fits who are owned by private equity. Some of you may have heard me say this before, but we are best placed from any of the repairers to take this additional work because we are community people and people come to you because it's you as individuals. And that's an ingredient that I believe we have above anyone else. And we just need to learn how to value that a little bit more. So you should all be proud of yourselves because during COVID, it was the independents that stayed open and kept the country going. So you should all be applauded, whereas everyone else shut and took the referral money. And that really is why we are busy.
No, it's clear in recent years the cars on our road, and we've heard this morning, they're continuing to get older. This is going to be difficult, two Matts on the panel. Matt Wiseman, yeah. You had a record year last year. What fed into that? How come?
Because people are keeping their cars longer. So we've accessed new work that we never had before through Schaeffler for dual clutch technology, that kind of thing. So we've done that training, we've brought the tooling, so we've expanded our ability to do these jobs, bring these jobs out the dealerships into the independent. And so that kind of thing has really expanded our ability to work in this environment. And those margins on those jobs are really, really strong. So it's absolutely work we need to be getting into. The training's available, the tools are available, get out there and get it, because the dealer doesn't really want it. We'll just elevate the price, which gives you plenty of margin to work with. So it's that kind of thing.
And Dean, it's been busy at your place as well, hasn't it? You're getting a real sort of mixed bag of vehicles in. I know you had a Nova in recently as well.
Yeah, so what we try and do is provide a service for every customer that wants to come through our door. So whether you've got a 1991 Nova, which our master tech loves, he got really engulfed in rebuilding the distributor the other day. So, and then everything from your new JLRs and what we're trying to do is get each individual technician a certain skill on a certain product. And once you've got a group of people who can do a vast variety of different things, it's a great thing that Andy Savva taught me. You don't stick someone on everything, you stick someone on something that they love. And that's where we've grown, is by embracing what people really enjoy. We've got one of our apprentices up there. He loves doing engine work, so I'm throwing him as many engines as possible. He's a 17-year-old. So that's where we are. We've got to embrace what do our customers need? How do we cater for that service? And the best way to move forward is finding a solution as quick as possible.
Now, Matt Cleevely, when we're talking about aging vehicles, does that still apply to the world of EV?
It does to a certain degree, yeah. So our car park is bang on average around 9 years a year still. Yes, we see a lot of younger vehicles, but we do see a lot of older vehicles as well. So our average is still around 9 years. And don't forget the EV world is pretty mature itself. So the first Nissan Leafs come out in 2011. So they're old cars, and these early adopters, as we saw in Quentin's presentation this morning, are desperately seeking workshops that will take the work on, because there aren't enough of us around.
So, Andy, we seem to have it pretty good at the moment. There's no shortage of work out there, it seems, but nothing lasts forever, right? So we've already heard from Quentin that this morning that the new car market is once again starting to grow. So is there anything that garage owners should be doing now in this busy period to ensure that they'll continue to be busy in the months and years to come?
I think there's a few things, but the one thing I've got to say also is that sometimes we focus too much on the negatives in our industry, and we need to focus on the positives. So the aging vehicle park, And I said back in 3 years ago that the extension of the production of petrol and diesel cars specifically, combustion engine will not stop at 2030. It will be extended. And I'm going to say in this forum today that it will probably be extended again, because that's not how real life works. There's no government that I know in the world that has reached any of its targets ever. And there's always a lot of political noise around things. But now that we're hopefully generating additional income and making the margins that we should do, we should be thinking about the next 6 months and 9 months. We should be proactive in that and not thinking about the next week or the week after. When cash is coming in is when you start building blocks for the next 6 to 12 months, not when you're quiet that you start advertising these come and get me prices to attract people in. So I think it's continuing the good work that most people in this room will be doing, which is staying close to your community, being part of some community projects. The work is there for us, but it's how we build those building blocks for the coming months. And also think about the services and the products that you're actually offering. Do some research and analyze your work type, which I think we're going to touch on. And you will have a healthy business, And finally, for me, I think it's very, very important to involve the whole of your team with anything that you've got planned in the coming weeks or months, any projections, any promotional stuff, any services or products you want to bring into the business or stop. It's paramount that you get your whole team together and you discuss it, because they are people that you can't do without. And sometimes I feel that in a garage you have a disconnect between the ownership and people working on whether it's in the workshop or front of the house. So communication, think about the next 6 months, invest your money wisely, measure what you do, and you'll be fine.
Talking about measuring what you do, Tim, whilst work is plentiful, is now a good time to pluck up the courage and be a bit more selective when it comes to the jobs that come into your workshop?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've looked at that over the last few years. It's much easier to do when you're busy, because work is coming through the door. But we've started to concentrate on areas of our business that we're really strong on, products that we're good at dealing with, actually rejecting work that isn't for us. And I think that's something that everybody needs to be able to pluck up the courage to actually say no. And every no you say will make everything else much easier, bizarrely. It's really understanding what you're good at within your company to make sure that is what you focus your efforts on. And as Matt was saying earlier, looking at the things that actually do well for you from a profit point of view. Looking at those products or those services that you offer that are actually strong on your profit, concentrate on those. Why would you concentrate on low margin product when you've got good margin product here? And that's something that we've taken a lot of action to profile and look at.
Andy, it'll be interesting to get your perspective on that. Why should we pluck up the courage to concentrate? It sounds obvious, isn't it? Concentrate on the work that brings in the most money, but why is it so difficult to physically do that?
I think because the makeup of most independent garages around the country for many years has been all make, service and repairs. And that's very difficult to change overnight. It takes courage, it takes research to understand your marketplace. For me, it was very easy when I started in 2010 because my platform was, strictly BMW, Mini and the VAG group. Why? Because the marketplace in my area demanded that. So it's very difficult to go from all make, service and repairs. But touching on what Tim has commented on, you can't be everything to everyone. You're going to be good on some and not on others. And if you think about the big brands of the world, the most famous brands of the world, they always focus on niche. They always focus and they narrow their product offering. Yeah. If we say Apple, for example, which is one of the companies that we talk about in my business training, how many products do they actually sell? 5 or 6, maybe sharing the same platform. So for them, it's easy to maintain quality, efficiency in their processes, and they have a product that everyone wants. They can go into anything they want, but they decide to stick to that. And if you think of all the best brands of the world, they're all in the same boat. If you take Schaeffler, for example, they make 2 specific brands or products. They stick to what they know. And I try and say to garage owners that sometimes we should look at our offerings, and if you measure the things correctly, you might be able to slowly diverse and not offer everything and focus on the things that hopefully will give you bigger margins, better profitability. And it takes courage, as Tim said, to say no. But if you say it professionally and you explain why you can't do that service, I think people will appreciate it even more. And, you know, for me, if you narrow the services that you offer, you will become more efficient, more professional, you can charge more, and you'll be recognized within your community and your area as a garage that is, you know, go to them for that.
Let's talk about customer profiling then, Tim, because I know you're a big advocate of that. Explain to us, firstly, what it is and why you think it's so important for your business.
I think, so when I look at our business and our trajectory of change that's happened, if you go back to, say, 1999 sort of time, you know, we were very much a case of trying to do everything to everyone, trying to be everything to everyone, looking at every customer as our potential customer. And what became apparent to me with the ability to look at some of the data that we've got is actually that's completely the wrong way of doing it, because you've got to narrow your products, narrow the types of things you work on, and the same applies to customers. So we actually profile our customers. When we moved to our current site, the first thing we did was looked at the age of our customers, and they were getting old. And that posed a problem because quite literally some of our customers, well, a big proportion of our customers were going to be dead. And that's really harsh to say, but the facts were we were in that sort of marketplace. So we had to look at our business and what we could do to try and attract younger customers. And we, you know, tried to position ourselves as a garage that would compete against main dealers. And we can't compete against everything they do, but we could take some of the things that they offer in terms of nice, clean reception, good facilities, all those little details that have become quite, you know, present in lots of businesses now. And we use that as a way of trying to profile our customers so we could attract that demographic into us. We've taken that a little bit further since in the last sort of 5 years, and probably COVID is probably a point at which we really thought about it. But we thought, you know, what do we do now to move on to our next type of customer? So we started to look at our data, you know, what customers that have used us for 10 years, and you think really loyal customers, always been with us, been brilliant for our business, and then you actually look at the data and they've only ever bought an MOT every year off you. So they're not actually that good a customer. And when you're talking about it from a financial point of view, they've obviously had work done somewhere else. And I would bet my bottom dollar that the reason they come to us is because their existing provider does not offer MOTs. And that's why they've used us. So anecdotally, you think, well, they're a really good customer. They've used us for years. But when you look at the data, you can see that actually they're not using us for servicing. They're not using us for repairs. So we've taken steps to try and make it more difficult for those people to book in. And one of the things that we've done with our business is we offer one MOT slot per day that's only for MOTs. Everything else has to be partnered with another job. And by doing that, we're helping to increase our average invoice value and really focusing on the customers that want and value what we offer as a whole. And that's the sort of actions we've been taking. But you know, we're fortunate with our management system we use that we can actually now grade our customers using certain criteria. And there's a couple of people in the room who are really excellent with that, and they've given me a lot of advice. Mick, Shakey, wherever you are. But it's really helped to really focus my mind on what we're doing and how we do it. And in 12 months' time, we're going to be even better at profiling those customers, which frees up more time to concentrate properly on those customers and also gives us time to do the repairs when we need repairs on those vehicles.
So all that sounds fantastic, but what are the actual results, having done that for some time now? What results are you seeing for your business on the back of that?
So just taking average invoice value as one example. So if we go back to 2021, our average invoice value was £220. I mean, there's obviously inflationary factors and things within these figures, but our average invoice value now is £335 So I think when we spoke, it was 330. It's actually going up again.
Wow. Okay.
And that's really on focusing on trying to get more work done in a shorter period of time. But you've got to have the right customers to be able to make that model work. And we've also worked on having less customers through the door. Part of this process, we've increased our turnover, we've increased our gross profit, and we've increased our average invoice value. And that's the effects of taking some of these actions and steps.
Just for context, that 335 average invoice value is up from 220, you said, in 2021. So that sort of gives you some kind of idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other challenge that we're having to contend with whilst running those busy workshops is ensuring that we have the staff needed to keep things running smoothly. The so-called skill shortage has long been a major problem in the industry. Andy, why is that such a big problem?
Well, we've created it over the last 50, 60 years. We're the ones who've created the shortage. We've contributed to it quite a lot. And now we're seeking for others to help us out. So why have we contributed it? Well, if you look at a garage, 20, 25 years ago, it wasn't really an inviting place to work. And if you were one of those kids like me who weren't going to go to university because of circumstance, teachers thought that the garage industry was the right place for you to be in. And I mentioned this to Colin in an earlier chat in the break. For a couple of years, I did some work for the I might not work. It was voluntary work on my behalf, where I'd go and knock on doors, schools and colleges, similar to what Colin did, and said I want to introduce myself and talk about my trade and give children an opportunity to think about coming into the motor trade. And I'll turn up at a school, and I'll be greeted by the teacher, and it'll be, we've got a group of kids here for you. They're not going to go to university. We thought the motor trade might be a good idea. And that was, I'm talking about 3 or 4 years ago. So that attitude hasn't changed. So we don't have much luck, right? Also, I think we haven't helped ourselves with the way we look as an organisation. Things have moved on in the last few years. I must say there's been some impressive transformations. I think COVID again helped that, gave us a chance to sit back and invest in our premises. So when I look at my kids, why would I want my kids to come into this sector from an outside view? It's not very enticing. So our proposition, it goes back to what is it we're offering? What is it that we can do? As Colin said very, very well, what is it that we can do differently to entice a new generation of people to come into our work and have a successful career? And it's not greasy monkeys anymore, or greasy joes, or whatever it is. It's not dirty overalls anymore. It's far, far more engaging than that. And I was one of those kids who never had a very good apprenticeship. I had a very hard time in my apprenticeship. And you've also got to think about who else are we against in terms of recruitment. When I think about my son, when I wanted him to come into my business, he didn't show a lot of interest. He wanted to go elsewhere. And this is a true story. A little while ago, he was moaning about his pay increase. He's 28, green under the ears. And I said to Maris, I don't really know how much you earn. What do you earn? He's on £83,000 a year. And he was moaning. And I'm thinking, really? Wow. And then I know my garage folk who've been working on honing their skills for the last 35 years are barely on 35 grand a year. So that's what we're up against. So, and the reason why we're like that is because we haven't earned the revenue to reinvest. And our labour charges have been low. And our proposition is not good enough. And the question I ask all of you is, if you have an applicant coming to you, if you're lucky enough to have someone knocking on your door for a job, what is your proposition? What are you going to say to them? When I ask that question, there's always silence. 4 weeks holiday. Yeah, but I get that anyway. You don't work Saturdays, but I get that anyway. What else? So now the game has changed. 20 years ago, we had a flock of people. Now we don't. We're all after the same person. We're all after that minority. How can I entice him or her to come over to me? Well, think about the proposition that you're offering. And I'm not going to be arrogant in saying this, but if I opened the garage tomorrow, I'd have no problem recruiting, because I'll do something completely different to what most people do. And that's what you have to do now, because that's the marketplace we're in. And it's not about repairing cars now. I think, and I talk from experience, I think for me, recruitment is about emotional connection, a rapport. I'm telling you in this room today that we've all got something under the table, under the carpet that we're ashamed to talk about. And we bring that into work. So having an understanding of people management, emotions, trauma, challenges at home affect how work is. And I think we've missed that. Not directly. I think it's happened to us over many years. We couldn't talk about these issues before. And I think as an employer, that's what I would offer. I'd offer something completely different to attract, and also, more importantly, what is your vision as an owner? What are you selling to that employee, that future employee? And if you can't sell your story and your vision, you've got no chance. And I believe I can do that. And I want everyone in this room to believe that they can do that.
So it's obviously much more than just salary. It's about the facilities and the development of your staff. But to be able to do all of those things, as you say, you need to get the business right. You need to get the numbers right. You get out to see a lot of garages, but there's still a surprisingly number of garages out there that aren't looking at those costs as a starting point.
No, and this is what, you know, the garage inspector does. He tries to go in and influence and change and teach. And you know, you think, you know, even up to, you know, I don't know, the majority of people pick a labour rate or a charge because it's the going rate in the area. So the only basis of their business model, it sounds about right. It's plucked out of the air, isn't it? There's no one who can tell me a proper calculation of how they've worked out their labour rate. So our revenues have been, to be fair to you, to all of us, vehicle owners have had it good for the last 40, 50 years. They've had it too good because we've never been afraid to, we've always been afraid to charge. We've undervalued what we do. And I'm telling you now that there's never been a group of people, my garage folk, that offer the service that they do and they give it away because we're afraid. I guarantee you in this room that you'll look at a car genuinely for 2.5 hours, diagnostic time, and you'll go to invoice and you'll only charge an hour and a half because you're shit scared. You think, how can I charge that much? You're worried. And this is what happens. So because our revenues and our profits have been too low for many years, it's very hard to recruit. And the other challenge we have is the usual thing. So you see a job description. So imagine this, and I saw one coming up, well, last night actually. I saw a job description for a technician. It looked like they were looking for a NASA scientist. It was about 6 pages long. And I went down, I thought, really? I didn't know these people. I think Colin used the word unicorn. I think it's beyond that. And then it had £32,000. Really? And then you can earn 45,000 on target earnings. What a joke. So why, if I found the right person, am I not paying them 45 from the beginning? I'm going to give you a statistic, my dear friends. 80% of a technician's time is not controlled by them. So we give them these draconian targets every month when their time is not controlled because it's business function. And yet we incentivize them on time. And you wonder why we can't get people. And we wonder why we stress people and they leave our industry. Yeah? And that's the name of the game. So get rid of your targets, look at people as people, help them, coach them, give them the facilities around to excel, support them in and out of work. And I'm telling you, if you can express that and show that, you'll have an abundance of people wanting to come and work for you.
So just going back to that point on labour rates then, how do you get that correct labour rate for your business?
The baseline of that is very simple. You have to work out what it's costing you to open your doors. And then you've got to work out the efficiency of your workshop. And not many people know how to calculate that correctly. And it's a myth. Well, it's not a myth. If you come to my training, you will learn. But you have to have your operating costs at the forefront, and the productivity or efficiency of your workshop is crucial to work out your labour rate. At the end of the day, what everyone has to understand is that we sell time. Time labour, diagnostic skill, whatever you want to call it, that's how we sell our time. And so I need to know how much time that costs me. And 99% of garages around the UK, I've got about 1,800 accounts on my system now. I keep all the key performance indicators that I need to keep, do not make money on their labour. And the only way they survive is through their parts buying. And that's getting less and less because of the internet and third-party aggregators. So if we don't focus on our labour, you'll never make any money. You'll never recover enough of your labour revenues to cover your operating costs. So you've got to take your operating costs, work out the efficiency of the workshop, and there's a formula that we use in order to come up with what it's costing me per hour to be there. There's no other calculation that you should be using to work out whether you have a business model that's going to be successful or not. This is the only way in order for you to understand what it's costing you and then what you have to sell it at.
Matt Wiseman, how often are you reviewing your labour rate?
We've done it twice in the last 6 months. So my accountant said to me 6 or 8 months ago, you need to up everything by 10% because of inflation. And we did. And we did it again about 3 weeks ago, another 10%. So we're on 120 plus that an hour, and we're full. We're booked for 3 weeks. So, you know, we are expensive. I've done the calculations. I'm lucky enough to be the son of an accountant, so we had a look at these kinds of numbers. We worked out what the running costs were, that sort of thing. So we come up with a figure, but also I looked forward into who am I competing against? So what's my competition and what are they charging? We've got all the dealer tools. We've got all the things we can do, everything a dealer does. We've got Land Rover up the road charging £240 an hour with the VAT. You know, my charge is not that great. We're full of Land Rovers day in, day out. And, you know, that's the figure they'll pay. And, you know, it will go up again.
Can I just say something on that? I'd rather you didn't use the word expensive. It's the right price, Matt.
Yeah, no, I get it. But we're expensive if you compare.
Let's forget about expensive and cheap. Expensive doesn't exist in our forum. It's the right price for what you're delivering. Maybe that's not even enough either.
Yeah, it might not be. I mean, when I'm being asked about the price of a tyre, and Quentin talked about it the other day, you know, it's a difficult market to work in. So, you know, and that's a bit expensive. That's the answer you get. But, you know, as we've discussed earlier, if you know, my favourite word in this business is no. You know, and I learnt it 10 years ago, and it transformed the business. And it doesn't have to be a rude no. It's just that I cannot provide what you're looking for in the time frame or the price scale or anything that, and, you know, I'll just say it's not for me. So we don't extend the lead times. We don't price ourselves out the job. We just say no. It's as simple as that. And people look at you like you're raving mad. How can you run a business like that? Because I know my business inside out, you know, and I know that job is just going to be a problem. You know, we put other tools in place to figure out whether that job's worth doing or not. And that depends a lot of it on the customer, whether the vehicle's got finance on it, that kind of thing. So we can see whether there's going to be a problem in the future. But yeah, I mean, labour rates is something that we're not shy of charging, you know, and we'll adjust them accordingly as and when we see it's necessary.
Excellent. So let's get back to recruitment. We heard from Colin this morning about the changing role of apprenticeships. Dean, you're a big believer in apprenticeships. Just tell us a little bit about your involvement and how important apprentices are to your business.
So let's go back to the beginning of my apprenticeship. So I was fortunate enough in 1996. Every Friday I went round to all the dealerships in the area and all the garages and handed them a CV. I'd worked in my dad's shop and I could work with animals, etc. So I'd had a variety of skills and no one would take me on. You know, my school said that I was only able to cut grass because they left me at the back of the classroom. So my educational part of my life was in the bin. And I had to go around these garages every Friday. And until someone, the service manager at a Vauxhall dealership said, I'm sick and tired of you coming in, just start Monday. And you know, I was 16-year-old. Before that, I had a few weeks on a YTS, and the guy said, you'll never make a mechanic because you don't stop talking. You know, if anyone knows me, I can just waffle on for hours. I've been quite subdued at the moment and just sat back. So
don't stop, Dean.
No, I'm on it. All day. So from this, the guy who told me I wanted to be a mechanic, he came to my garage a couple of years ago and shook my hand. He said he was retiring and would like to buy his customers. I said, no, it's okay, I'll take him anyway. So from that scenario, I started at the Vauxhall main dealership, and the guy who trained me up, he stood there with his arms crossed, and this is the truth, and I can't tell a lie. Anyways, he stood there in his toolbox, and he says, "I'll show you one job and one job only, and I'll show you once." And so, and I was saying last night, I used 45 minutes. I could have a low blow diesel engine stripped down on a bench with the swirl pots off and everything back for warranty because of cracked heads. So 45 minutes, I was stripping a cylinder head off one of the old Vauxhall Astras. They had all the police cars coming in and stuff, and I loved it. And he showed me how to DTI cams up once. He showed me how to build a gearbox once. And you know, by the time I was 18, I was doing full body shops on Amiga Elites for the body shop. So my skill of having to retain information of how to strip and build went from I can build a Volkswagen Beetle engine to I'm capable of anything. You know, and then I went through, I got headhunted from a Chrysler Jeep main dealer, and I went working there for 2 years. And by the time I was 20, nearly 21, I was running a 3-bay workshop for him as a satellite dealer. And I went to my boss and said, I've got a mortgage, I need to pay my bills, and my outgoings have gone up, can I have some more money? He says, no. So I went for trucks and heavy plant. And you know, and that's where my career excelled then, because I learned that no nut and bolt could ever defeat me. But I always remember the time when that company gave me the opportunity. I always remember that no one believed in me, and someone gave me that chance. And then I got to 30, 31, and I was doing jobs on the side, and I couldn't go into work because I was too busy trying to collect a customer base. And I walked into the office, said, I'm going to leave, I'm going to start on my own. And they're like, don't do it yet. I thought it was because it was terrible out there. No, they wanted to keep me because I was so vital to that company. You know, trucks and heavy plant, I could work in power stations, I could work on drilling rigs, I could build caterpillars, I could work on your lawnmower, anything in between. So I was doing sprinter clutches in 48 minutes. So from that skill level, I wanted to pass this knowledge on. So as soon as I knew I was starting up my company, I rang my local college, which is now a housing estate, and I don't know what the country's doing, knocking colleges down and building housing estates. So that's the place where I had to go to an interview for, because I was the only guy ever to need an interview at a college because my qualifications wouldn't allow me to be a mechanic. You know, you didn't need anything. I got a B in drama, as you can tell. so from that, and so carrying on from that scenario, I asked for the best apprentice, and they said, we've got this level 2, and he came with me, a little John boy. He's not a little boy. He's like,
It's not the one that he was talking about.
No, it's another one.
Eh?
And he's as big as Eddie Hall, and he was a big, strong guy, and he was 17-year-old, and I used to pick him up in the morning, and we used to go around, and I taught him the way I was taught. I'll show you this once, and you're gonna have to remember it because I'm too busy. So 2011, I've got John Boy there, and he had a challenging upbringing, you know, and 2 years into it, he went away he spent some time. He wasn't allowed to play out for 2 years. Right, we'll call it that. But he was a really good lad, and I taught him how to build engines. I taught him how to do clutches. So I had a car. I could leave him at home. I could leave him doing a clutch. I'd go and do some ABS sensors down the road in my van. I had an LT35, and as soon as I knew he was going away, I found another apprentice, and I said, "I want your best apprentice." And they sent me someone else, and he stayed with me for a while. He was always on his phone. The amount of things I dropped on the screen of his phone was amazing. I think he went for about 8 phones in a year because he was always on it, and he put it down, and I'd be like, well, anyway, that's another story. But keep getting the apprentices. At the moment, I've got an 8-bay workshop, and I've got 3 full-time apprentices. And I've just got a new starter. She's 23-year-old. She's been 5 years in the army. She spent 18 months at Land Rover dealership, and she's really eager to learn. In her interview, she says, I want hungry for more. So when you get someone young and keen for the trade, you've got to embrace it. So I've got 3 young people in my corner where I'm hovering around. I can start on a job. I'm like, well, you crack on with that for half an hour. And I'm keeping an eye on that. So I'm training 3. And we've got Cade, who's up there, who's 17-year-old, who's doing clutches on Range Rovers. And he's doing cam belts on anything you wish, because I want the people who I know everyone's thinking different. We want the educated people. I want the people what no one will accept. I want the people who no one will want because they're hungry and they really want, they need to give them a chance. So if any of you who are garage owners in this room do not have an apprentice, tomorrow morning contact your college and go and get one. For the cost it takes to pay for an apprentice in one day, I wasted time putting the legs under a ramp and topping screen wash up. So you think about that little skill you can give them. Tyre pressures, topping up screen wash, putting the legs under, doing an inspection. Within 3 months, they can do a thorough inspection on any vehicle. Within a year, they can do a full service on any vehicle. Within 2 years, they're doing your cam belts and clutches and stuff. And if you can't find value in that, you shouldn't be opening a garage because I can't work forever. I've got to bring someone into the trade who can take my role. And I'd be so proud when one of them comes to me and says, thank you for your time, you've taught me really well, I'm going to grow some more. And that's where we need to be. And in 10, 15 years' time, 20 years' time, I'll go and shake their hand.
It's great to hear that apprenticeships have had such a positive impact on your business. And it's interesting that you mentioned mobile phones there because, Matt Wiseman, you've had difficulties, and I'm sure you're not the only one when it comes to apprenticeships. Yeah. I guess it's about finding the right person, but you've been unable to find that right person.
Yeah, we've struggled, and I've actually drawn a line in the sand now and said, I haven't got the time to process it anymore. And, we're too busy, and I'm very hands-on, so I'm not in the front of the office running things. I'm in the workshop most of the time, so I've got my own jobs to do. So managing young staff is quite difficult. You can't hand it to another technician to do because they've got their own job to do. It's very difficult. We've had a lad standing on his phone with his finger on the ramp with the tailgate up and straight through the ceiling. I called his parents in and I said, "Oh, sorry, that's it." And they were like, "Well, how can you do that?" I said, "Well, I've got a £1,500 bill here to pay. You've put the tailgate through the roof. What am I supposed to do?" He was told not to use his phone. He didn't. That's the end of that. I've been running around the back of the workshops finding kids. They've disappeared out of the workshop. They're round the back of the workshop on the phone. I'm running around the back thinking, what the hell am I doing? I've got a job to do. I'm not nursemaiding these kids, and gone, and that's it. So, but then we've had a lad who used to drive a delivery van for us, delivering tyres, who's 33, got a young child, married, and he said, really, whenever he turned up, he was always in the workshop having a look at what was going on. And I just said to one of my colleagues, just give him a job. Just give him a job. It doesn't matter what it is. This guy, you can't keep him out of the place. So, he was on minimum wage. I think we started him on £26,000 a year. So we got a pay rise from driving a van. He's now on plus £30,000 a year. He's 2 years into his apprenticeship and he loves it. He's got the biggest toolbox that anybody's got. It's, he's buying tools. He's doing all that. He's so engaged and it's the best thing that I did. If I could just find another couple of those mid to late 20s in that situation where they've grown up a little bit. They're coming out of school at 16 with no idea about life, and their parents are expecting us to bring them up, having not brought them up themselves. And the school does the same. Stick him in a garage. It's a dangerous environment, and it's a working environment, and it has time pressures and all these kinds of things. We haven't got the time to mess about with people that aren't interested. So finding the right person is vitally important. So listening to Dean there and say, ring the college, find that is great for me to, that's what I should be doing.
So to go on to Matt, what he's saying, what I do is I contact my local college now and they send me someone for 100 hours. And so they'll come on a Monday for 10 weeks, 10, 12 weeks. And if they're really good, this is why I've got 3 now. I'm like, I'm keeping you. You mind now? I'm going to mould you into some kind of weird genius who can remember where you put that bolt 3 weeks ago. You can nurture and embrace their skill. So that's how I collect them. But
can you collect me, Dean?
You can come anytime.
Collect me.
But from
I want to start again.
From that, if they're no good, you don't have to pay them. They need the experience in a workshop. After 8 weeks, you go, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you here. Please can you ask them to send the next one? It's usually Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. We're stacked with either 16, 17 or 18-year-old coming for experience. Plus we work with a local school for educationally challenged children, and they send them in and they embrace it. And young Charlie comes in on a, I think he's on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and as soon as he comes in, he's like, hey, mate, I'm here, fist bump. And then I'll go, I'll go and do the bins. Have you had a brew? And he'll come out with one brew and he's doing his absolute utmost best. And he'll walk to the next person, I've not made you a brew, I'll make you a brew. And this is what we're going to do. We're giving people an opportunity. Whether they built for it for the long term, we're giving the opportunity now.
Do you find issues with the health and safety in your insurance with that, or are they all okay?
No, they're fine. Because we get the schools and the colleges send outside assessors in.
Yeah.
And then
once you've been passed off, you're okay.
Yeah. So they do full risk assessments. They check my records and make sure that I'm insured, and they walk round. And plus, I was fortunate enough to have my insurance come and do an audit on me, which was a pleasurable experience.
Yeah.
And he gave me full flying start. He said, you need metal bins instead of metal bins. No, metal bins instead of plastic bins, and that was about it.
We had that. They told us to get rid of the metal bins because they're too heavy to put into the big bins.
You need Charlie there, try to empty them for you.
We could keep talking about apprentices for a lot longer, but time is pressing on. So we now move on to the big one, if that's okay. Matt Cleevely, I'm looking at you for this because it is electric vehicles.
Shall I leave?
Please stick around, stick around. No, this is a market that you identified in 2018. To what extent have you seen the EV market grow in that time?
So the reason I got into EV was because I'm passionate about renewable technologies. I'm passionate about this industry, and I wanted to know what was the future potentially for me to develop as a technician. I'd done my Master Tech ATA. I wanted to know what was next and how I could do it. And sort of the combination of that I stumbled across an EV. The reason I ended up with an EV dedicated business was because the main dealers are terrible at it. So I went to a main dealer to go and buy a Nissan Leaf, and they couldn't sell me one. They didn't want to sell me one. I went back 3 times. It's in a corner. A charger's broken. Battery's flat. It's broken. Number of excuses. So for EV adoption to happen, and I think it should, for the right circumstances, for the right people, I thought, well, there needed to be a business that supported that growth and gave the confidence to the consumer and the early adopter stage we were in at the time. And it really gripped me. Driving the cars are brilliant. I love it. And I've been a petrol head all my life. I've raced my own race cars, but driving my own performance Model Y now is such a buzz. I love it. I'm going to lose my license at some point soon. But whilst it remains, I will continue to enjoy it. And we stuck our neck out and we said, if you own an EV, come to us, we'll look after it. I expected to be, or I hoped to be, the busiest garage in Cheltenham, maybe Gloucestershire. And we ended up as the country's busiest EV repairer. I didn't know that there was such a big appetite for EVs to be repaired in the independent aftermarket. But you kind of get, when you visit a main dealer and you see how useless they are with it, I kind of got a feeling that there could be, and we were onto something. So we've really tailored our business around that, and we don't turn ICE away now. 55% of what we do still is ICE. But since getting Garage Hive and a decent management system and plotting it through, so we've had Garage Hive for 2.5 years, and I'm sharing a lot of data in my presentation that I'm doing this afternoon in the 3 breakouts, but it is growing market, and even to us that we've been doing it for 6 years, but the last 2.5 we've seen a steady increase in the kind of customer that wants to bring their EV to us and the kind of car that we're seeing and the money that can be made in it.
It's interesting. And Dean, you've recently opened your EV workshop. Presumably you've seen what's happening and thought that you want to tap into that.
So yeah, it went on. I follow Matt Cleevely, and I'm thinking there's a market. So what do we have in an EV? Well, first of all, I thought I need to buy one, so I went out and bought one, and it's phenomenal. The performance. I don't know if mine's as fast as Tim's.
When either of ours as fast as Matt's. So
no, but from that, right, there's a market out there for EV. So what we're going to do is train up. So we've got 2 EV level 4. We've got 2 of us are EV level 3. Why aren't we using that? So we've gone out and we've done a qualification. So what we do is we bought the car so we can train and stuff. And we bought the equipment from Laser Tools. We bought the big box with the posts and everything. It was great value. And so Now, I do need a 2CT clutch this afternoon. So that's right. But from that, we thought we got the training, we got the competence, and now we've got to go show confidence. And now this is why we're pushing the EV side of the workshop. We've got a designated bay, which is part of the Diag bay, and that is solely for EVs. Because at the end of the day, we need to be safe. We need to make sure that everyone who's in the building understands that we're working for anything up to 800 volts now, is it?
Yeah.
So we're working where it's extremely dangerous area, and we've got to show our customers that we're there for the longevity of it.
And Tim, what about you? Would you describe yourself as EV ready?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've taken a slightly different approach. We're in a rural area, so the take-up of EVs is low. I did the same as Dean, so I went and bought one to see what it was like. Nothing to do with tax advantages. So I went and experienced what it's like, and yeah, it is a bit of a pain sometimes. You've gone a long journey, you have to think about it differently, but actually it becomes a non-problem quite quickly. But the reason for doing that was to understand what the market experience is. So that was my aim for doing that. We went and we got 2 technicians trained EV. We're starting to plot, so we're just in the process now of redoing our website, which is going to include EV as part of it rather than being an add-on. And this is all to do with speaking to people like Matt and Dean and understanding that you have to, as well as being EV ready, you have to communicate it to customers to tell them that you're EV ready. We've already got a customer base that are starting to inquire about, do you do? I wanted to be in a position where I'm not going to be, the way I see it now is I'm not going to be looking to go into major repairs on EVs like Matt would, but I want to be in a position where we can take care of our existing customers before they go somewhere else, really. And that was my aim and ambition with it.
Absolutely. For me, that's what it was about. It wasn't. So Cleevely Motors is a 60-year-old 3-generational business. And I thought, well, I don't want to be the generation that lets it dwindle to nothing. What is the future of my trade and my job and my family business? And it's spawned a monster, essentially, off the back of it. But I've loved every minute of it. And I've learned so much about our business, about me as a person, about our customer base, and about our trade. And that's why I'm sat at events like this today, giving my experience over and my presentation. There's so much data in it because I want to share it, and I want other garages to grasp the opportunity that there is in this market.
Andy, you've stayed in the room, so thank you. You've been listening patiently.
It's over.
It's over. You've never been an advocate for EV. So why is that?
So first of all, I respect for Matt for what he's doing. He's in a very niche market and he's at the top of his game, so that needs to be applauded, right? I'll tell you why. And I've been saying this consistently for a long time. It's not for everyone. It's actually not for the majority, right? And the problem with our trade is that when there's a lot of noise about something, everyone follows. And everyone follows without actually doing a lot of research within their given area, right? And they invest in this equipment or the tooling, and then it's all sitting there doing nothing, right? Now, if I opened a garage tomorrow, I wouldn't care one iota about EV vehicles because that's not what's going to make me money. There's enough of the other shit and enough for the next 30 years for me to make my living and more, right? And the practicalities of EV ownership, for me, when I've done my little research, is only for about 10 or 12% of the population. And I'll tell you something, that's going to be less. And I'll tell you what's going to happen, and I'll say it in this forum, and maybe one day on my tombstone or gravestone, whatever you want to call it, you'll have heard it in 2024. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, everyone was telling everyone to go and buy diesel cars. Yes? And those people that bought diesel cars, what happened to them? And the same thing's going to happen with EV, my friends. All right? And you've all got to wake up and smell the coffee.
But they won't still have them because they'll all be scrap.
Maybe. All right? So I'm not saying to you that in some areas of the country, that you can't make a good living and offer a professional service like Matt does in EV, but it's not for the majority. And you need to make sure that you do your research in your own marketplace before you decide. Subsidies and all these tax breaks will lessen because the government need to get their revenue. And eventually things will hit the fan, the shit will hit the fan, like insurance is more, getting you know, bodywork when there's an accident. You know, I've got a friend of mine who runs a body shop, a premium body shop. He's 9 months to get parts. It's unrealistic for most people in the independent garage sector. It's not realistic. In London specifically, there's not enough infrastructure. There's people still sleeping in the streets without no homes. And we're going to have infrastructure enough for electric charging. So because I knew I was going to come here, I did something yesterday, right? There's one charging point on my high street. It now costs £36 for 15 minutes for, is it 7 or 8 kilowatt charge, which is about 20 minutes. So you work that out. And then you've got the inconvenience of long journeys. So I'm not saying to you EV technology won't progress. Of course it progresses. But I'm going to tell you something now, is that there's too much noise around it, and we're forgetting about the existing customers that you have and the technology that's still out there, that will be out there for the next 15, 20, 30 years. So it's not for everyone. I go back to when climate control first came as standard in cars. So the first people who bought aircon machines were doing all right. Then guess what happened? What happened? The manufacturers started selling aircon machines to every Tom, Dick and Harry, right? What happened to the price of that? Sorry? Went down, yeah? When wheel alignment came into four-wheel alignment, the first adopters did all right. And then what happened to wheel alignment price? Because everyone had a four-wheel alignment machine. We give it away. What do you think happens with ADAS?
Good point, yeah.
Same thing, innit?
Cut it short there. Get your point, but we're just going to have to quickly move on because time is running short. Matt.
Thank you.
Matt, a difficult question for you, and keep it brief if you could. If there is
Can I leave
this,
now?
not yet, there's still more to come. If there is all of this ICE vehicle work out there, and there is, you're seeing it, why get distracted by EV?
For us, it was about looking after our customer base and their family and not wanting to lose, because we've all spoke, all the talks this morning about community, about looking after your customer base, about not alienating anyone, about being able to do everything you can for those people. So I wanted to not turn my back. So our job is to look after our customers' vehicles. That should be regardless of fuel type, in my opinion. And there are a multitude of arguments against EV, but I think burying your head in the sand about electrification as a fuel type I think as a garage, you should be making a decision as to whether you agree that electrification is here to stay and that we should have some part in it for the future of your business and to keep your customer base, or not. And you could argue all day about electric cars specifically, but when you've got BEVs and FEVs and mild hybrids and all those things, that's not going to go away overnight. This is here. We're over 1 million cars on the road of EVs already. So, and that's BEVs alone. Once you throw in FEVs as well, we're up again. So there's a revenue stream there. There's money to be made out there. There are our customers using them. Why would we turn our back on any of them when we're there to provide them a service?
And you've got lots of data to back up, and we looked at some of the data in terms of the car park in the UK. It's grown exponentially, so do get along to Matt's breakout session this afternoon. He'll go into lots more details about what that all means to you as a garage business. We're running really short on time. I don't know if we've got any time for questions at all. Sadly not. So grab the guys during the network sessions, ask the questions directly, but for now, we're going to have to press on and say thank you, everyone, to listening. And thank you particularly to our panelists. It's been very insightful. So, well done.